Dear teachers and my dear students, I am Dr. P.K. Verma. In the previous session, I had discussed a structure of kidney and an outline of urine formation, its storage in the urinary bladder, as well as micturition. In this session, I shall discuss details of the urine formation. You know that blood contains glucose, various amino acids, proteins, urea, and other metabolites, along with minerals, vitamins, and steroid hormones. Filtration of blood plasma results into elimination of most of these constituents, though urine is formed mainly to eliminate urea. Formation of urine is a complex process that includes three steps: ultrafiltration, reabsorption, and active secretion. In this diagram, it has been shown that glomerular filtration takes place in the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. After that, in the entire length of renal tubule, that is from proximal convoluted tubule to the collecting duct, there are tubular reabsorption. Some substances are also directly excreted into renal tubules from the blood capillaries known as vasa recta, and ultimately the urine passes down collecting duct. So all these processes should be studied in details. Here also in this diagram, point number 1 shows glomerulus where the blood plasma is filtered and small solutes from blood pass down into Bowman's capsule as the glomerular filtrate. In the second part, the proximal convoluted tubule, reabsorption of ions, water, and nutrients take place. It removes toxins and adjusts filtrate pH. The third part is descending loop of Henle. Here, water passes from the filtrate into interstitium. In the fourth part, that is ascending limb of loop of Henle, reabsorption of sodium and chloride from the filtrate into interstitial fluid takes place. In the fifth part, distal tubule, that is distal convoluted tubule, selectively secretes and absorbs different ions to maintain blood pH and electrolyte balance. Lastly, in the collecting duct, a few solutes are absorbed and water from the filtrate and highly condensed urine passed down. So let us study everything in detail. The first process is known as ultrafiltration. It is the process of fine filtration of blood plasma under high pressure in the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. Glomerulus has very high pressure, almost twice the blood pressure in peripheral organs, about 55 mm to 60 mm. It is called glomerular hydrostatic pressure or glomerular blood hydrostatic pressure. However, this pressure is opposed by two major forces. The first one is the viscosity of plasma or colloidal hydrostatic pressure or oncotic pressure. It is approximately 30 to 32 millimeter. And another is the pressure of interstitial fluid and the filtrate present in Bowman's capsule that together forms capsular hydrostatic pressure around 55 to 18 millimeter. The effective or net filtration pressure is the glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus blood colloid hydrostatic pressure minus capsule hydrostatic pressure. The effective filtration pressure is therefore only 10 millimeter, that is 55 minus 30 minus 15 millimeter. Under this pressure, 120 to 125 milliliter blood is filtered per minute. That is known as glomerular filtration rate, GFR. You can see in this diagram the fine structure of Bowman's capsule. The afferent artery has greater diameter than efferent. Inside the Bowman's capsule, the epithelia of blood capillaries change into podocytes. The wall of the Bowman's capsule also is very thin because it has to take the filtrate from glomerulus. Here also the pressures have been written in the footer. You can see the glomerular blood hydrostatic pressure GBHP is 55 millimeter, blood colloid osmotic pressure BCOP is 30 millimeter, capsular hydrostatic pressure CHP is 15 millimeter, that is net filtration pressure is 10 millimeter. Now the glomerular filtration rate is the measure that describes the total amount of filtrate formed per minute by all the renal capsules in both kidneys. The glomerular filtration rate is directly proportional to the pressure gradient in the glomerulus. So change in the blood pressure will change glomerular filtration rate. Starling has given the equation for glomerular filtration rate as the filtration constant multiplied effective filtration pressure. The glomerular filtration rate is affected by change in arterial blood pressure. So, if the pressure decreases to half, filtration may stop. But when the pressure is doubled, the filtration may be 6 times greater. In an adult, about 1500 milliliter blood passes through both kidneys per minute, in which the plasma volume is 50 to 60%, that is 750 ml to 950 ml. Out of that, 120 ml to 125 ml filtrate is formed. So the rate of filtration is minimum 13.33 to maximum 16.66%. It is in average 15%, though in some texts it is mentioned as 20%. In the glomerular filtrate, everything of blood plasma except proteins are filtered, So their compositions are very much similar. That is, the filtrate composition is similar to the blood plasma composition. It includes sodium, glucose, almost all the amino acids, and abundance of water. The compounds with molecular weight more than 50,000, that is with diameter 14 millimicron, are almost absent from the glomerular filtrate. That means no higher protein can be filtered through glomerulus, but low molecular weight proteins can pass through the glomerular filtrate into renal tubules. Here in this table, composition of the plasma, filtrate and urine has been shown. Water is 90% in plasma and filtrate, but water is higher in urine, 94%. Glucose that was present 100 mg per 100 ml, that is 0.1%, was same as in the plasma and filtrate. Similarly, amount of amino acids are same, urea same, and inorganic ions same in the plasma and filtrate. But in the plasma, there was 8% protein, whereas in filtrate it is nil. It means protein has not been filtered through the glomerulus. Now let us study the function of renal tubule. In mammals, about 75% of total solids are absorbed from the glomerular filtrate in the proximal convoluted tubule. In the first part of proximal convoluted tubule, amino acids and glucose are absorbed almost completely. Absorption of glucose and amino acids take place by sodium-dependent active transport mechanism, which are the properties of the cells of PCT, and there is no any direct hormonal control. So this mechanism is regularly operating, filtration is going on every second, and absorption also goes on every second. The reabsorption of glucose and amino acids make the filtrate hypotonic, that causes passive absorption of large amount of water also. In PCT, reabsorption of phosphate also occurs, but partially. The reabsorption of inorganic phosphate depends upon its level in plasma, pH, and on the activity of parathyroid gland. When present in low concentration, phosphate is absorbed completely. But when high concentration of parathyroid hormone is there, it causes greater loss of phosphate in urine. Sodium, chloride and bicarbonate are absorbed uniformly along the length of PCT as well as in the distal tubules. In this diagram, you can see the components absorbed from different parts of the uriniferous tubule as well as the components that are secreted into the renal tubule. You can see that urea, uric acid, creatinine and some drugs are secreted into renal tubule, but the glucose, amino acids, protein, calcium, magnesium, chloride, bicarbonate, water, as well as the organic components like lactic acid, urea and uric acid are partially absorbed in the renal tubule. In proximal convoluted tubule, potassium is reabsorbed but again secreted back into the distal tubule. In PCT and descending limb as well as in some part of ascending limb, sodium absorption is passive. and chloride follows it. That is, there is symport of sodium and chloride, but later on sodium is exchanged by potassium. In the upper part of ascending limb, active absorption of sodium takes place in exchange to potassium, but later on sodium is exchanged with proton to maintain the ionic equilibrium. Because of release of the proton, the pH of filtrate gradually decreases and finally the urine has pH around 4.5. In this diagram, in different part of the renal tubule, the cortex, outer medulla and inner medulla, exchange of materials have been shown. In this table, the amount of solutes present in the filtrate in 24 hours has been shown. In 24 hours, about 180 liter filtrate is formed, but 179 liter is absorbed and around 1 liter is released by micturition. The amount of protein in filtrate is 10 to 20 milligram, 10 to 20 gram, but all are absorbed. Sodium 540 grams, but reabsorption takes place 537 grams, so only 3 grams sodium is released through urine. As compared to it, potassium, that was 28 gram in 180 liter, absorbed 24 gram, and so 4 gram potassium was again excreted with urine. So as compared to sodium and potassium, reabsorption of potassium is poor. Glucose, if it is present 180 gram per day, almost all is reabsorbed and urine does not contain glucose. In urea, almost 50% is reabsorbed and 50% excreted. Out of 53 gram urea, 25 gram is excreted. Uric acid, however, is mostly reabsorbed and only 0.8 gram out of total 8.5 gram uric acid is excreted. Creatinine is not filtered through glomerulus, but it is present in the same amount as in the blood plasma. It is released into renal tubule by active secretion. Now in the distal tubule and collecting duct, mostly reabsorption takes place. The fluid reaching the distal tubule is hypotonic, but a specific process of absorption of water by active transport is needed. Retention of a high amount of water in medulla is possible only when it absorbs and retains high amount of sodium or other solute. At first it is done by active absorption of sodium, but thereafter the fluid becomes isosmotic for sodium. Therefore, urea is absorbed. In case of patients living on low protein diet, urea synthesis is poor, so this osmotic pressure cannot be maintained, and larger amount of water returns into collecting duct, increasing urine volume. In the terminal part of collecting duct, almost equal amount of sodium and urea are reabsorbed to maintain the outer environment isosmotic with the filtrate. A small amount of oligopeptides that pass through glomerulus is almost completely absorbed in PCT. So, the presence of protein in urine may be sign of some renal disease. It is also found in pregnant women and patients with high blood pressure. Because of the high blood pressure, some albuminous protein are secreted through glomerular filtration. Now the third part is active secretion. In the above discussion, you have studied about the fate of substances which are filtered through glomerulus. But the urine does not contain only these substances. There are many substances which are not filtered through glomerulus are present in urine. These substances are actively secreted into renal tubule from blood of vasa recta. Some common compounds are para-aminohippuric acid, creatinine and penicillin. Many weak acids and bases such as aspirin and phenobarbital are passively secreted along electrochemical gradient. After all, these process hardly 1 to 1.5 milliliter concentrated urine passes down the collecting duct. Thus, more than 99% filtrate is reabsorbed. The urinary bladder has capacity 250 ml to 300 ml for storage of urine in normal condition. So they can avoid discharge of urine for 4 to 5 hours. Now there is a term tubular capacity. The capacity of tubular epithelium to reabsorb certain materials from the glomerular filtrate or to secrete them into tubular lumen is limited because the transport mechanism cannot deal with more than a limited amount of solute per minute. When the blood concentration of glucose is gradually increased from 120 to 180 milligram per 100 ml, all of them are absorbed by the proximal convoluted tubule. But thereafter, it passes into urine. That means the tubules have maximum capacity to absorb 180 milligram glucose per minute, not beyond that. So it is the renal threshold for glucose or the maximum rate of tubular absorption Tm for glucose. For different amino acids, this capacity is different. Just as there is a maximum reabsorption capacity for each substance, so there is maximum secretory capacity also, that is the rate at which materials can be transferred from blood across the tubular epithelium into the lumen also is limited. It is known as maximum rate of tubular secretion. So there are maximum rate of tubular absorption as well as maximum rate of tubular secretion. Now, kidney is not only a device of excretion but it also helps in osmoregulation, that is, maintenance of the osmotic pressure in blood plasma, in the body fluid, and in the tissues. Heinrich Wirth in 1953 studied changes in the osmotic pressure of filtrate and interstitial fluid in different parts of renal tubules and found that due to the opposite flow of the fluid in the descending limb and collecting duct to the ascending limb help in regular absorption of water and maintenance of the osmotic pressure. Such opposite flow is called countercurrent and the maintenance of osmotic pressure is called osmoregulation. In this diagram, it has been shown how the osmotic pressure in the descending limb is greater than osmotic pressure in the ascending limb. In the collecting duct and descending limb, as well as in the interstitium, the osmotic pressures are same or similar, that is, these are the isosmotic. In this diagram also, it has been shown that water, sodium are absorbed in the ascending and descending limbs, but in the collecting duct, some urea also is absorbed in the terminal part. When the osmotic pressure in descending limb is compared with the pressure in ascending limb, it is found that in most of the parts, the descending limb has more concentration than the ascending limb. In the previous diagram, it was shown the difference between osmotic pressure may be 50 millismol to 200 millismol. Additionally, the loop of Henle invades the renal medulla, which is naturally high in salt concentration and tend to absorb water from the renal tubule and concentrate the filtrate. The osmotic gradient increases as it moves deeper into medulla. The interstitial fluid is hypertonic to the fluid in both the limbs. Therefore, there is a tendency that water is lost from these tubules into the interstitium in entire length. Because two sides of the loop of Henle perform opposite functions, it acts as countercurrent multiplier. The vasa recta around it acts as the countercurrent exchanger. In the loop of Henle, however, the fluids become isosmotic, so it has greater tendency to transfer sodium chloride rather than water. Now the vasa recta is the capillaries around the renal tubules. The blood vessels which run alongside the loop of Henle are called vasa recta. In these vessels, the blood flows in countercurrent fashion towards the tip of the papillae and back again to the arcuate vessels running between the cortex and medulla. The blood flows very slowly in these vessels and maintain an equilibrium with the interstitial fluid of medulla and thus with the fluid in the loop of Henle. This arrangement further promotes a high concentration of solute passing from the tubular lumen into the medullary interstitial tissue. In other words, it acts as an exchange multiplier for sodium and urea. This countercurrent process produces a greater difference in osmotic pressure between cortex and medulla. Now, if you want to measure the renal clearance and GFR, you have to do some experimentation. The excretion and glomerular filtration rate depends on the arterial blood pressure and rate of renal blood flow. This can be measured by injecting some very small non-toxic substance into blood that can be filtered through glomerulus but not absorbed by the tubule. The measuring its concentration in blood plasma as well as in urine. Inulin, a polysaccharide made of about 30 fructose unit with molecular weight 5200, is used for this purpose. If the concentration of inulin in urine is U milligram per 100 ml and the volume of urine passage per minute is V, then the amount of inulin excreted per minute is UV by 100 milligram. If the plasma concentration of inulin is P milligram per 100 ml and glomerular filtration rate is X, then the amount of inulin filtered per minute is XP by 100 milligram. Thus, XP by 100 milligram is equal to UV by 100, that is XP is equal to UV, or the X is UV by P milligram per minute. Similar to the filtration rate, you can measure also the blood flow rate. In an experimental, the value of P is 0.05 gram per 100 ml, U is 6.25 gram inulin per 100 milliliter, while the urine is excreted 1 milliliter per minute. The inulin clearance or glomerular filtration rate is 6.25 by 0.05, that is 125 milliliter per minute, and it comes to 180 liter per day. Maintenance of glomerular filtration rate is an important aspect of excretion. If a person takes large volume of water, say 1 liter, within half an hour, the filtration rate will increase and rate of reabsorption of water will become slow. As the urine passes faster, many other useful things like sodium may not be absorbed properly. Conversely, if a person does not take enough water and filtration rate decreases, the urine passes out slowly. As a result of this, much of urea may be reabsorbed that had to be excreted out. Now, to know the renal blood flow, another type of chemical is used. When diodone or diodrast is injected into blood in a small amount, it is completely filtered or secreted into renal tubule and not found in renal vein. By measuring its amount in plasma and urine, rate of renal blood flow, that is plasma volume, can be calculated. In an experiment, the arterial plasma contains 5 milligram, that is 0.05 gram of iodine per 100 ml, while the urine contains 3.5 gram per 100 ml. So iodine clearance is 3.5 into 1 by 0.005, that is 700 ml per minute. It means 700 milliliter plasma is filtered per minute. Now, just as summary, blood flow 1500 ml per minute, plasma flow through the kidneys as measured by diodone clearance is 750 milliliter per minute or 700 milliliter per minute. Glomerular filtrate measured by inulin clearance is 125 milliliter per minute. Urine is 1 milliliter per minute and filtration fraction is 16.66%. Now, on the absorption of sodium, I have said that there are some process of active absorption of sodium. The active absorption of sodium is dependent on renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Whenever there is low sodium in the afferent renal arteries, the juxtaglomerular cells become active and release enzyme renin. This renin acts on the angiotensinogen protein present in the blood plasma. Angiotensinogen breaks into angiotensin 1, a decapeptide. In blood plasma, there are other peptidase enzymes such as the angiotensin converting enzyme or converting factor that releases two more amino acids and converts angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 has only 8 amino acids, so it is a decapeptide. It moves to adrenal cortex and particularly the outer layer known as zona glomerulosa. From zona glomerulosa, a hormone aldosterone is released that controls active absorption of sodium from renal tubule but excretion of potassium. Similarly, water also is absorbed by active transport in the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct. When density of water decreases in blood, that is, blood becomes dense, the centers in hypothalamus become active. There are osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. They activate release of vasopressin hormone, and the vasopressin acts on the collecting duct and DCT, where the active absorption of water takes place. Therefore, if vasopressin level is low, water volume in urine will increase, that is known as diuresis. Because of this, vasopressin is also known as antidiuretic hormone. In absence of vasopressin or low level of vasopressin, the urine volume regularly becomes larger and it leads to a disease known as diabetes insipidus. Now you have studied all about the structure and function of kidneys. Thank you very much.